last night, like a vampire rising from the dead, Donald Trump made his appearance at CPAC, and I don't know if you watched it all, Rebecca, but I did. I watched a bit of it, and then I kept watching it, and I kept watching it, and I watched it all the way through to the end. And I gotta say, after November, I thought Trump had probably, his shelf life had expired. And I didn't really see, much as I was a big supporter, how he could make a comeback, particularly. I watched him last night, and I've got a little video clip I wanna put up, but just a couple. Indulge me in this one. So here's just a couple of moments from Trump last night, a couple of his highlights. Play.
But who knows? Who knows? I may even decide to beat them for a third time, okay? Beat them for a third time.
I think, well, Rebecca, I'll go to you. Thoughts?
I mean, that comment had everything packed in it, didn't it?
It did.
Just
I know, so much there.
He's still saying, I won the 2020. He's playing with them. He's triggering them. He's saying, I may stand. You don't know. But I don't think he will. I just can't see it. And I think what Trump would have preferred, if I'm going to be honest, he expected to win his second term.
So did I.
I still maintain that it was the COVID what got him. It was the coronavirus that disrupted democracy. I really, really think that. Now, you might say that's through postal votes. So we're kind of in agreement that that's where the coronavirus affected it. But come what may, I still think coronavirus did affect that Democratic vote. So I think he would have had a second term. And I think at the end of the second term, he would have been looking at Jared Kushner, Ivanka, Donald Trump Jr. He would be looking at those guys for his legacy, because bizarrely, they're a republic, but they don't half like their dynasties. They don't half like their political families to run the show. We had the Bushes, the Clintons, Eisenhower was in twice. They absolutely love it. So, I can't see that he at 78 is going to run.
Well,
I can't see it.
You say that. So talking of 78, I wanted to play another clip of a 78-year-old. And Trump was... He was full of energy. I don't know what he was on, Rebecca, but he was certainly pumped. It was a very smooth, mellifluous speech. He certainly learned the political craft over the past 4 years in the White House. And whether you like him or loathe him, I guess he came across to me as a guy at 74, which he is now, full of energy, really pumped up, and vigorous. Now I want to play a short clip of the current incumbent in the White House. Play.
I think anyone runs for president or is elected if they have a thin skin.
Set up my son to work in an oil company.
Oh, I haven't taken the test. Why the hell would I take a test? Come on, man. That's like saying before you got in this program, if you take a test where you're taking cocaine or not, what do you think, huh? Are you a junkie?
What do you say?
Shirley Jackson Lee, Al Green, Sylvia Garcia, Lizzie Pinelli, Pinell, and what am I doing here? COVID has taken this year, just since the outbreak, it's taken more than 100 years. Look, here's the lives. When you think about it, more lives this year than any other year for the past 100 years. What am I doing here?
What is he doing here? Well, he's president. That's what he's doing here, Rebecca. And I would just contrast the weak Biden. And I don't take pleasure in, you see that clip? I don't take pleasure in that. This is a guy who's got cognitive decline. It's obvious he's got cognitive decline, and so I'm not actually seeking to particularly mock him, but I contrast his weakness with Trump's strength. And I think over the next 2 to 3 years, because I do think Trump amazingly will go for it again. I think age 78, I doubt Trump would be any worse than that. We've just seen. Do you?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting, isn't it? Because I think there is a sense within the current White House that Biden is weak.
Yeah.
And what have they done? 22 airstrikes yesterday in Syria. They've
Yeah.
already started the bombing, you know. And
Yeah.
so it is. I mean, I hate this. I hate Americans meddling in the Middle East, in
Same here.
Syria. Do you know, the only country I think that had a decent policy in Syria was the Russians. But I mean, I'll probably get, you know, silenced for saying it. You know, Jared Kushner, I've seen some negative stuff on the chat about Jared Kushner. Let me tell you what Jared Kushner did and why he was massively impressive. He's only 35, 36, so he's very, very young. He was put in charge of negotiating Middle East peace. Now, this is something that has defeated every single US president for years and years, since the 1970s. They've never been able to broker peace because they focused on the Palestinian issue, and they were always touchy about landing on one side or another. So what Jared Kushner did was he went in and said, well, I'm not going to look at the problem that way. I am going to ask people what the biggest problem is. So he asked all of the Arab states and Israel what the biggest problem in the Middle East was. It's not Palestine, it's Iran. They're all under threat from Iran. So he brokered the my enemy's enemy is my friend peace deal between Israel and the big Arab states like Saudi Arabia, who all share an antipathy for Iran. So give the guy credit at 36 years of age to be able to go in, rewrite the books on diplomacy, and to negotiate a fantastic peace deal, which will have an impact on fuel prices, on global security, on oil security, because the Israelis are not in battle with the Arab states that matter in the Middle East.
I agree. Sorry, I'm amused at a couple of comments on the thread here. Someone's saying that on the nuclear codes, he's given the codes to China's. Kim suggests. Someone else suggests Pelosi wants the codes, but Joe can't remember where he put them. Actually, this is right. You may have seen this. A number of House Democrats are concerned that Biden has sole. He's got sole access to the nuclear codes, and this is the guy who, as he said, he doesn't know what he's doing there. So I think we've got a really interesting political landscape ahead, because we've got this weak, dithering president. I don't think he's going to make the term, Rebecca. I think Kamala will be introduced maybe midterms, because, it's funny. I was reading a book on the death of President Kennedy. I just finished it last night. What do I do to relax? I read books about political history. What a sad person I am. And it was a really interesting book on the President JFK. And the events leading up to the murder of JFK. But the one thing that struck me is that, and I'm sure this is true of Boris Johnson and every other major political leader there's been, the minute you go into that position, the pressures that appear on you, Rebecca, are enormous. And most of us don't even know half of the stuff that they get in their daily briefings. Like, I was reading about some of the stuff JFK had to deal with just over his breakfast briefings. Incredible stuff that would demolish most people who are strong and virile and, full of energy. And then you think of Biden, and I'm thinking, how the heck is he going to sustain himself in 4 years with all this stuff coming in across his desk? I just can't see it. Can you? For 4 years?
No, I can't. And it always staggered me. How was that really the best the Democrat Party could do? against Trump, who's a powerful personality, you know, hugely popular, all into populist policies.
Yeah.
You know, it seemed very bizarre that they put Biden up, and he feels like a puppet for something else. He feels like
Yeah.
very weak front man, but there were plenty of other very weak front men to put up there. I mean, American politics, I hate it. It's all about money. It attracts the wrong people. You know, it doesn't attract the best. It really doesn't. And, you know, I just, even Trump, I don't think it ended well. It was all a bit unpleasant. Rudy Giuliani did Trump no favors. Whoever his lawyers were advising him on the voting stuff, you know, they did have evidence, but they really screwed their evidence up. They ran very poor cases. He got let down. White House didn't support him. You know, like the civil servants weren't there for him. They tried to do him in the whole 4 years. But he did rise very well, and he rose to the occasion because of this enormous narcissistic personality. He did really well.
But yeah, well, I mean, I think many politicians are narcissists. And Rebecca, sometimes I think that's what attracts narcissists into politics. Well, I'm not sure. Not saying all politics, not saying all councillors, for example, but I'm saying there's an element of that. I mean, it's ego, but hey, like we've all got egos. But one of the things, like for example, like last night, and I think we've got a clip of this. I mean, the thing that really made me think that Trump will stand, and I think he will go for it, against what I thought 2 months ago, he kind of almost gave a summary stump speech. And I wonder, can we just play this? We only lasts for about 60 seconds, but he just hits trigger after trigger after trigger. I know it's CPAC, but there's a big, you know, I believe this speech was watched by 31 million people last night. Now that's more than watched the Golden Globes even, Rebecca. So, you know, the guy's a pain.
Number watched Meghan.
We maybe talk about her before. I don't know if we'll have time to talk about her, but I wonder, can we just, if we can play this, if we can get this clip up on the screen. It was just basically Trump reeling off.
It was all lies. Talked about energy.
Yeah, that one. That's the one.
About energy. I said, you know, this guy actually, he's okay with energy. He wasn't okay with energy. He wants to put you all out of business. He's not okay with energy. He wants windmills, the windmills that don't work when you need them. Joe Biden has had the most disastrous first month of any president in modern history. That's true. Already the Biden administration has proven that they are anti-jobs, anti-family, anti-borders, anti-energy, anti-women, and anti-science. In just one short month, we have gone from America first to America last. You think about it, right? America last.
And whether you, again, Rebecca, whether you like him or loathe him, I listened to that and I just thought, wow, that is impressive in terms of that. That's a guy who's thought about, he's a very smart guy, Donald Trump. He's thought about where he's going to go with this one. And it's going to be his American first agenda versus Biden's America last agenda. And everything Biden's going to do is play into the America last narrative. So all of a sudden, I'm thinking something I thought inconceivable, Trump re-entering the White House. But I don't think it's inconceivable. I don't know, you know, maybe it is.
Yeah, the thing that kind of depresses me a little bit about this is that it feels like there's going to be a bigger culture war, and in 4 years' time, 3 years' time. I mean, let's face it, they start campaigning probably even 2 years' time.
22.
I just feel the culture wars are stoked up. Now, I'm not saying I blame Trump for that. I think he's responding now to it rather than instigating it. But I find that it does worry me that there are going to be more culture wars, and there's no end in sight. And I think that is a function of both Trump's personality and Biden's weakness. I just don't think anybody could naysay the fact that Biden is a phenomenally weak individual for whatever reason. I mean, I like you, I'm not going to delve into the whys, but why would you nominate somebody as a president, as a party who is so obviously weak? It was the culture war, I think, that won it for Biden this time, if you believe he won it. But it will be the culture war that wins it next time. And it's horrible. It's nasty. It's vicious. It can be violent, as we saw with all the BLM riots last summer. It's not a good thing. It's really not a good thing. Trump is so right about business taxes because he dropped the taxes, took the hit on "you're only here for the rich people." He took the hit on that narrative, and he proved within 6 months how beneficial to everybody low taxes were. Pension funds rocketed, the stock market went crazy. People's pensions were worth, and their savings were worth more. It was a good thing to do. It was business friendly. And I'm afraid that Biden has fallen into the trap of whatever Trump did, I'm going to reverse, because it's a culture war. Even the good stuff has been reversed.
Yeah, I think that's it. Sometimes you only appreciate things in hindsight. And now we've got away from the heat and fury of the November election, and we can look back in those Trump years. As you say, Rebecca, he did achieve tremendous amounts, like in the Middle East. That's going to be an enduring legacy. The re-empowerment of, he put America back to work again. Contrary to what Obama said, he helped create millions of jobs. America became energy independent. Biden's already fundamentally getting rid of that. Another reason for soaring oil prices, by the way. So he achieved a lot. And I agree with you. Had it not been for COVID in 2020 and the narrative that went with that and how the media presented that, I mean, he was way ahead in the polls in February, and then that all collapsed. So, but that's gone. 2020, we can't go back in time, but you can look forward. And I think Trump is easily the most charismatic figure in the Republican field. He dominates it. He is the leader of the GOP, regardless of what some liberals may think. He is the leader. And you can see he does really have a connection to the base, doesn't he? It's the way he speaks. But
it is really worth saying that, again, I know this is slightly contentious. If Trump sort of distances himself from the QAnon, for the further right wing that exists, Trump was a Democrat once upon a time.
He was. He definitely was. Yeah.
He can adopt a middle ground. And let's not forget that the middle ground in America is quite right wing compared with us. But he can adopt the middle ground really, really easily by dropping the far right, the nasty side of the far right. Because believe me, in America, far right is nasty far right. He can drop them with no problem. And he's got 2 years now to find a middler ground.
Well,
that's it. Absolutely.
That's exactly what I detected last night. The speech was nuanced. It wasn't red meat exactly, if you know what I mean, for the base. There was some funnies in it and whatnot, but he was charismatic and sensible about the things that he said. For example, and again, it's a topic you and I have talked about, he's focusing on wanting to protect women's sport, which is, I mean, an open goal for him to play into. But he's savvy enough to realize that, and that's not really that's not controversial. The other side.
Well, they're going to court this week, aren't they? Again.
Yes.
The female athletes in Connecticut. Yeah.
Exactly. So, look, when you look at I thought about those agenda items he was ticking off in that 60-second stump speech, and I thought those are really good items. And as the Democrats get in for longer and govern for longer, and more things go wrong, I think that Trump could be I think the GOP will do very well in the 2020 midterms which again, they've got this curious 2-year cycle, haven't they, where really you get elected and then very shortly you're campaigning again for the midterms. And could the GOP take the lower house in 2022? I think it's possible. The other thing,
Pelosi's position, because she's 78 herself now, isn't she? She's really cracking on. So in many ways, I think she may feel her work is done, her damage is done, and so they will be looking for a new Speaker of the House, and that is a critical position to have. Now, the current mathematics or the arithmetic of the Senate is 50-50, and the House of Representatives is not an out and out majority. I don't know what the exact numbers are, but it's not a big majority for the Democrats. It's all very, very much. So the thing is that Biden has inherited the worst economic position because of the coronavirus pandemic. Although Donald Trump's record on the economy wasn't what did him, it was actually his policies on not locking down America hard enough was what he got criticized for. And I'm not discussing the merits of that, but what he did on the economy actually wasn't that bad. But Biden has inherited the worst bit of the economy, the worst bit of the pandemic, because he's got to deal with the economy now, but he puts taxes up. It's the worst thing to do for the economy. So in 2 years' time, Donald Trump is going to say, look what happens if you don't put America first. You've screwed it, because America first is dropping taxes again, more than I did. That's what you should have done. He won't have to do it.
And when Americans see the jobs going, and when they see the taxes rising, and when they see then the identity politics being played by the radicals within the Democrats, radicals like Kamala and those behind her as well, I think that's going to make it's going to be really interesting to talk about it in 2022. And, I did see a poll that said if Trump wasn't going to run, who would be the person who most, I know we've got some Americans on the stream here, who would be the candidate? And I think at the moment anyway, and things can change, Ron DeSantis, the Florida governor, he's proving massively popular at the moment. So he would be, he's another name that's been mentioned, but I'm Trump towers over them. Literally,
Tom Cotton's a big player. He's a Republican senator he's in the Midwest somewhere, one of the southern Midwestern states. And I think he's growing in prominence. He's very sort of conservative, capital C conservative.
And actually, there's a lady, Donny Girl says, Christy, I'm never sure how you pronounce this.
Yeah.
Noom. Who's been very impressive. There's some, this is the thing, Rebecca, I think there's some really, in fact, that's somebody else. Elliot said, yeah, same lady is another great one. Yet there's some fantastic talent in the Republican Party, I think, which is over the next couple of years is going to flourish. So, so I just think it's a really good, I'm just looking at the pronunciations of Noam. No.
So one of the things that's come up in the stream, though, is about AOC becoming the speaker. Not if the House of Representatives goes to the Republicans, it will be a Republican speaker. Actually, so it will be interesting to see who that person is. It will be a person who doesn't necessarily want to be the president. So, I
couldn't see it. I didn't see that in the stream about AOC, but I suppose if you've got, what is it Trump calls her, Crazy Nancy? If you've got crazy, I love his names, but it's very ad hominem, but it's funny at the same time. If you got Crazy Nancy, I guess Crazy AOC would be possible. Although she's a lunatic, but a raving socialist lunatic. But I suppose.
They're just too out there, really. You just don't feel confident that they're a safe pair of hands, do you? You do worry that they're all totally driven and motivated by identity politics.
Yes. Yeah.
And we all feel a little bit uncomfortable about that. So, yeah, it would be interesting to see. I mean, of course, you and I both love watching American politics as much as our own. In fact, more so because Trump made it massively amusing.
Yeah. And actually, the other thing about Trump, after the November election, between the results happening and last night, the ratings in CNN and the other major news organizations, they flopped. They went right back because people were only watching them so they could give you the nightly Trump hate. And Trump said this, or he's tweeted that and the other. So, his dominance, it is remarkable, Rebecca, it has to be said, his dominance of the political scene. And now he's back. I think he'll continue to dominate, not Biden. And I'm just interested, if they do dump Biden in 2022 midterms and install Kamala, I wonder would the dynamic be any different, or is it just a Trump?
I don't think they can't do that. There is a constitutional norm that it's only if he is impeached and convicted, or stands aside on Article 25, I think it is, through ill health or whatever, which is quite likely, or dies in office. Yeah, there's only a very limited number of circumstances in which he can actually hand over to Nancy, two of the biggest ones being death, I think. So,
I would certainly wish him a long and happy retirement, but I just don't think he's fit for the job, and it's painful to watch it. And that's, Rebecca, as we go through 2021, there'll be global events that we don't even know about. Things will happen, and a lot of those things end up on the White House in the Oval Office on the desk there. And I just think he's not capable of doing it. And even if others are telling him what to say, it doesn't look very credible. So I think events will absolutely expose what the Democrats have done. So although they think they're in a good place because they've got the White House, they've got the Senate, they've got the lower house, I'm not sure it's not as good as they think it is.
No, it's only just, if you can mobilize that bigger vote, and say what you will, Donald Trump's vote for a loser was a phenomenally high vote. If you can mobilize that many people in the circumstances of 2020, which was a grim year for anybody, then people are motivated, and they will be motivated, I think, more. And as you said, the optics that Donald Trump hinted at last night in that speech.
Yeah.
They're brilliant optics, all of them. Look what you're doing to women. You accuse me of pinching women's bums in the 1970s. Look what you have done to every woman who wants to be a sportswoman.
Yeah.
Every single college girl, look what you've just done to them. That is powerful. That's powerful.
As I say, I mean, Trump is a strategist. He's a master strategist. And even though he does have, the other sort of other characteristics to his personality, I think he's. When I heard that last night, I thought that's going to be very hard for the Democrats. Now, of course, as a few people have said here in the stream, Biden and the Democrats, they've got big tech on their side. They've got our friends on Twitter and on Facebook. They've got all them in the back pocket. But I'm not sure that may be enough. I'm not sure that may be enough.
Do you think that affects people's vote? I don't. I think people go to social media to talk about their vote, to talk about what they feel, what they want.
Yeah.
I mean, fake news can affect people's perception.
Yeah.
But if it's the actor themselves talking, no, I don't think so. I really don't think so. I think big tech overeggs its own importance, frankly. I think the social media giants overestimate how important they are in the big wide world. We know that they're huge because they're popular, but it doesn't take much for people to switch off them and find alternatives.
Well, of course, I mean, the other thing is Trump is carrying a bit of a grudge against them, understandably. And he did say in his speech last night that the Republican Party need to take away their special privileges. And whether that happens or not, I don't know. Whether it makes the impact he thinks, I also don't quite know. But certainly, the landscape's going to change. And that's why I think it's good, to talk about American politics, Rebecca, sometimes. It's global. It affects, as you mentioned, the Middle East. It affects us in the UK as well, by the way, because we've not really seen where Biden's going to be vis-a-vis the UK versus the EU and all of that stuff. We don't really know all of that just yet. So I think it's important to keep our eye on what's happening across the pond in our former colonies over there. If only they'd stayed part of us, wouldn't have been so much better. I love it. There's nothing better than winding up Americans. All you Americans watching this, when Brits suggesting that you made such a mistake breaking away from us. Actually, you did the right thing. The history of the American independence is fascinating political history. All the stuff that, and it's not that long ago, Rebecca. It's not that long ago when you go to the turmoil that happened in the States, and and turmoil still happens. And the one lesson in politics is, the more things change, the more they stay the same. But anyway, nonetheless, we got to the end of this one, so I want to, as ever, thank you, Rebecca, for being here with us. It's a real pleasure to see you as always. So thank you very much. Thank you to all the folks on the stream. For being here. Thanks for all your comments. Thanks for the super chats, all of that business. And just make sure you tune in to my little daily videos. You see them knocking out, I think, usually 1 or 2 a day. So you can watch those if you want. And I will be back definitely on Thursday night on this stream. I will be back elsewhere on Wednesday night, post-budget, to have a discussion on, well, we'll be able to see, Rebecca, on Wednesday night how accurate or how the things we've talked about play out or not. I'm sure
we'll know what's in the budget on Monday, won't we? Because it'll be in the press.
It's all in the press. Yeah, tomorrow's newspapers will probably select, which is it does annoy me the way things are leaked like that. There's no surprises left anymore because they leak every bloody thing. But nonetheless, thanks.
Can I just say one thing, David, which I don't think you noticed in the stream? Ozzy, really sorry to hear about your dad. I hope he gets better, and I hope he's at home recovering as soon as possible. So lots of love to your dad from us on here. Yeah,
sorry, Ozzy. Rebecca, I didn't see that, so I can't see the comment. But Ozzy, I mean, you're one of our most loyal followers, and you're always here. And elsewhere, I know you're very active on some of my other channels. So listen, I'm very sorry about your dad. Also, Angela McCavanagh, nice to see you on the stream as well. Good to see some of my former Twitterati friends making their way over to these new fields. But anyway, we have come to an end. I just wanted, Rebecca, I always like to finish on a cheery note or even a lunatic note. I saw a picture. I want to put it up just to finish on. This is it. Yeah, do you see this one, Rebecca? A couple are spotted in Waitrose in full hazmat suits. There they go. Rubber gloves and goggles. I mean, that's the way that's definitely what I'm going to do from here on in.
It's COVID secure.
Yeah. And on that note, Rebecca Butler, thanks very much. Thanks everybody for being on the stream. Catch up with you later in the week. That's it for me for now. Good night, everybody.